welcome to our pilot episode, and I'm here with James. Okay, we'll just say James.
You just say James Mishap.
James Mishap. We're here.
I did ask, somebody came in the other day and asked if it was Mishap or Mishap.
Welcome. We're here with James Mishap of Mishap Games. Happy to have you here, James.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's talk maybe news. Let's handle news first. It's the only thing about tabletop news that I know is the divorce of, and it really feels like my parents are splitting up with GW and Fantasy Flight. Because as you know, I buy a lot of GW products here. They released, Fantasy Flight released like that Rune. What's the world it takes place in?
Rune
but that Rune Wars game or something. I'm like, that really seems like they're just trying to swoop up like a lot of GW's disenchanted fantasy.
It's hard to say. Games Workshop has started to do more board games. Fantasy Flight has started to do more miniature games.
Yeah.
It was always kind of weird that Games Workshop licensed their stuff out to Fantasy Flight in the first place, considering that they print books, make board games, do all that stuff that their Fantasy Flight is doing. So it seemed odd for them to farm it out like that. So I think maybe they wanted it back because it seems like they're expanding a lot more into board games these days. But it wasn't exactly like they canceled the agreement. The agreement was set to expire. They did not renew it.
Do you know who, I guess it was just mutually they didn't renew it.
I think they both have to renew it if they want to renew it, and nobody knows.
So it could have been one party wanted to and the other didn't, or both didn't.
Yeah, it could be both.
Okay.
So.
Busted. Any other interesting news happening in the, interesting to you?
Well, we're starting up our fall release schedule. Games go in cycles, and right now they're gearing up to release everything that's going to be available for the holiday season. So for the next few months, there's a whole lot of games being released. So
it's the pre-holiday scramble.
Pre-holiday scramble, yes.
And this is just typical every year.
Every year.
Is that a good time to buy games?
It's always a good time to buy games. No, if you're a gamer, it's a good time because this is when they put out all the new stuff. For the regular buyer, I mean, it's nothing really goes on sale. Right?
Is there a time when things go on sale?
Yes, when they're old and discontinued and clearanced out.
Okay.
And even then, not necessarily. All those Fantasy Flight Games Workshop games that we just mentioned are going to be a lot of money on eBay. Just a whole ton of money. They're already all sold out. And certain copies are going for $300. Our expansion's going pretty well. We haven't painted yet, but we're in progress on that now.
Something I know that's been on my mind, and I'm sure it's on everyone else's mind, which of the current political candidates do you think is the most pro-tabletop?
That's a tough one. I'm going to go with Trump's probably more pro-tabletop.
You heard it here.
Building walls is kind of like a gameplay mechanic too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he might be able to connect with.
Yeah, that's possible.
Well, I think Hillary might like a nice hidden movement game.
Maybe Coup.
Yeah. Or, Scotland Yard might be a little. Fury of Dracula might be a little more up.
Fury of Dracula.
I don't know. That was a pretty good bit.
I'll probably edit it out.
Most important news is that the Dunkin' Donuts is almost finished.
So the ice cream place is going to get some competition.
No, the guy's actually real excited for that because they don't overlap at all.
I did notice he had an interesting product, hot dog chips.
Yep. He's got...
So he cuts them up into thin slices and fries the hot dogs. Like, I think
it's probably hot dogs and chips.
Well, that's not what he wrote.
Yeah, I know.
Do you think there's a connection between the donut industry and the tabletop industry?
I hope not.
We all know about the corruption in the donut industry.
Big dough.
What would you call big board game? Because that doesn't sound that.
Is that even really much of a thing? Big board game?
My day in North America.
The French are.
There's a large amount of consolidation that goes on behind the scenes. That manufacturers buy each other up in these like conglomerates. That happens in every industry. And right now, Asmodee is pretty big because they own Fantasy Flight, they own Asmodee, they own a bunch of other companies that you probably recognize if you're a board gamer.
We did some news, so there you go. Have some news.
Star Trek Ascendancy is supposed to be new and good, but like it's kind of a Mansions of Madness Second Edition. I guess is kind of new. Yeah. Alright.
You need help?
No, he's good.
RPGs. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, it depends on how, a good short time.
Yeah, okay. You know what? Let's leave Ascendancy off. This looks like almost too big to. What else are you? We have a new role-playing game in stock. It's actually not that new, but it's new to us, and it's the End of the World. And this particular one is Alien Invasion. There are a few others. There's a zombie one. There's a kind of a nuclear apocalypse as well.
Do they have the obligatory Cthulhu mythos one yet?
Yes, I believe there's one in there that does happen like that. This role-playing system's a little different than most because you actually base your character on yourself and try to see which of your group would survive whatever apocalypse you're currently inflicting. This particular one, like I said, is Alien Invasion, and it has about 5 or 6 different scenarios, both as they're happening, like an apocalypse scenario, and then a post-apocalypse scenario, like it happened and now you're surviving in the rest of the world. So you have stuff in here like your traditional alien greys. You have giant ants that are kind of 50s movie style. You have the replicants or whatever, that just the pod people that replace other people.
Oh, I see. The Stepford wives.
Stepford
I believe
wives,
they were.
yes.
Yeah.
And lizard people, I think, as well. So it's pretty fun.
It looks a bit thinner than a lot of.
It's very mechanics
RPGs.
light because, like I said, it's based on the hook that you are the character. So
Look, they're in a chain gang.
right. Oh, it's the
like
ants.
ants.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
So it's kind of just kind of a lighter. Yeah, you got the lizard people. Got the greys.
Yeah, the greys are very Mars Attacks reference type stuff.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. Looks fun. Looks fun. It's a fun little romp. All right.
All right, this is Warhammer 40K Kill Team. It's from Games Workshop. It is a low-cost entry into the 40K system. It's $65. It includes 2 different sides, the 40K rulebook and a Kill Team rulebook. So that's pretty cheap for the rulebook.
Kill Team used to be like a third-party, like.
They have third-party kill teams, but Games Workshop has also published their own.
Didn't it start out like as kind of this third-party?
Kind of, because Games Workshop has actually had Kill Team off and on since like 3rd or 2nd edition or something like that. So there's always been rules that they've published in White Dwarf to kind of support it, and then people took it and ran with it, and it spun off different versions and everything. But this is an official version. We will be running a Kill Team event in October, and that's a very, very low-cost way to get into 40K and have some fun creating miniatures and playing with them and stuff like that.
So is this essentially, you just get two different teams that you can play, so you could split that with a friend?
Yep.
Or,
you got to argue over who gets the rule book, but yes, it's pretty neat. It's kind of a discount too, because the 2 different miniatures boxes that are in here are a total of $90 if bought separately. So
and this is 65.
This is 65, and it includes the rule books.
That's quite a discount.
It is. They like to.
Is Games Workshop? Are they starting to just like?
They've kind of tried to. What they realized. What they realize is like they don't really have a lot of low cost entry points into the hobby, and oh gosh, you got to get this $85 rulebook, you've got to get this $58 codex, and then you have to start purchasing these miniatures that you don't really know much about. It's kind of intimidating to a casual player. So they've started doing these things like Kill Team, start collecting boxes behind us in white there. Those are all low-cost entries into the system, so you don't have to think about stuff too much.
Do you think they're just slowly trying to move into trying to regrow their audience, maybe more volume at a lower price point?
Regrow is probably the appropriate term. There's a definite, and this is not just Games Workshop games, but all games, board games, miniature games, collectible card games, role-playing games, that kind of thing. You have a certain amount of player churn. I'm sure every role player has experienced. They start out a group with 5 or 6 people, then one person drops, another person goes to college, another person gets a new job and can't play on that night anymore.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to bring new people in to replace the old people. And the same thing happens in miniature games, especially in Games Workshop games. So what they were seeing was that they had a fairly decent player retention rate. You know, they weren't losing a lot of players because of the games themselves.
Yeah, it's not like ISIS or anything.
Exactly. So, but you naturally lose players because they move, they have to sell it because of a financial emergency, et cetera, et cetera. So you always need to be able to bring new players in. And as they were discovering, the cost to entry of 40K in other miniatures games has crept up quite a lot. So they kind of are actively trying to reduce the cost.
Well, and I see all these things, and I think myself as someone who's kind of very new to the hobby, like I would see these these APOC tables and just these big armies and stuff, and then I would look at something like Infinity and be like, okay, that feels a lot more doable, you know.
And that's what this is supposed to be. This is the doable box.
So this is a newer board game we have here. Kind of came out of the blue.
Yes, this is Mansions of Madness 2nd edition from Fantasy Flight Games. It kind of replaces the 1st edition, but it has all new miniatures, all new tiles. The main difference between this and the previous edition is that there's a tablet or app, or it even works on PC, I think.
Yeah, no, it can work on PC and Mac. So that's a really nice thing. Is it's really as cross-platform an app as.
Can I put it on Ubuntu? Can I run it on my Palm OS smartphone?
No.
Yes. Actually played this game a bit, and I gotta say, I had talked to you about it, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." That it's not cool that they got rid of the betrayal element. Like, you can't do that. But Pumper was telling me it was very immersive for him.
It does a good job of like letting you play the game in a very exploratory way instead of
like min-max.
Right. I very much don't feel like I have to win the game. I can just kind of play it, experience the game, and that's enjoyable.
I saw a Reddit post about this game, and they were min-maxing the value of the game based on like how many hours of play does it give you. Thus, that equates to the value of the game. And
that sounds horrible.
Only $99.95.
If you don't want to spend quite that much, we'll be playing this in the store soon.
That's a great segue.
Yes.
Come on down to the Dark Dungeons event if you wanna dabble your toes. If $100 seems like a bit much, and you're like, oh man, I could get a whole kill team for that money and more. Come on down to the Dark Dungeons event and play some. Yeah, and you can see the description below for more information on the event. Quite a long day here.
Don't start that, because I'll start it.
This is a brand new segment for the show. A little bit of show and tell. So for our first episode, James and I just figured we'd just show off some stuff that we did. So I guess I'll go first. As you guys all know, I just started painting this year, in like, I think February or so. I'm constantly experimenting, and so we played some Black Plague, and we got the zombie bosses. A friend just surprised me with it. Played around a little bit with some technical paint, Nurgle's Rot. I've used Nurgle's Rot a bit on some zombies, and I felt there was something missing. It just felt like I was putting a color on. So I undercoated with a little bit of camo shade. I really like that because it created a little dark undertone. You can see the darkness in some bits. I put the Nurgle's Rot on top of that. I also used a little bit of the blood for the blood god, and while the Nurgle's Rot was still wet, kind of did a tie-dye little
Swirl.
thing, a little swirl in it.
Yeah.
I also experimented a bit with fluorescence, and I got these fluorescents from you. But you can see in the eyes, I started with Moot Green, which is like the lightest green GW carries. So I put like just a thin down layer, and I covered the whole socket, like anywhere where line of sight the middle of the eye would see, to kind of get that glowing effect. Then I got the whole, what I thought was the whole ocular area with a couple layers of this fluorescent green. You need to put a little bit more, or do a couple more layers than you would with GW paints, because they're Vallejo paints, and especially once you thin them down. And then right in the center, I added a few layers of this yellow. I experimented with using some white for like a real bright hot light, and it didn't look to me as good as just the yellow fluorescent, because I guess white's not saturated. It's bright, but it's not saturated.
White is for gems.
Yeah.
Like gem-like qualities. If you're looking at just
a
eyes
glow
that are glowing, you're not going to see the white, because the glow would glow over the white, if that makes sense.
So
there you go.
that's why it doesn't work. I experimented a lot in this. I experimented with those pens. What do you call it? Those
Micron pens.
Micron pens. So the red veins. It worked well, especially I put some washes over top of it, and they're very easy to control because they're pens. Like them a lot. Did a lot of new things with that. Some things I liked, some things I didn't like. That was supposed to be bits of old skin. I don't think it looks like that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I
don't think it was like a shirt or something.
Yeah, I think it ends up looking like, oh, his shirt instead of like skin. Yeah. But oh well, wrong color.
All right, I have one to show off as well.
Oh, okay.
This is a model I did a fairly long time ago, but it's still probably the most popular model in the store when people see it. It's a model I did for a contest. This is all layered. I didn't use any washes at all. No dry brushing, no washes. Just a whole lot of different browns. I used Vallejo's. No, actually I used Army Painter, I think. From bleached bone all the way down to whatever their Roanoke's hide equivalent is.
Your dark, yeah.
Yeah, and I just mixed up like 9 different layers of brown on the palette and just layered each individual muscle according to how you're supposed to layer it. I don't think I will do that again. I think I will take advantage of washes. It turned out pretty well, but I don't think the time trade-off was worth it.
People like this style, and like historical people really seem to like, they don't like washes at all. And
well, they've been painting since before washes.
Yeah, and I guess in a way this looks more authentic in a certain way, but
it's supposed to be more technically correct. Theoretically, if you had infinite amount of layers, you would have like a painting. Eventually is what you get. This model also upsets me because it has a very nice leather color on it that I have never been able to replicate again.
With yes, in his that is nice.
I know it uses Vallejo's Cavalry Brown, which is a very nice reddish brown. And it is mixed with other browns. I have no idea with what, and it to this day I've not been able to replicate it. I've tried numerous times.
You didn't write down.
I didn't write it down. You have to write it down. So I know it's a very simple ratio of Cavalry Brown to some other brown, but I do not know what the ratio is. It's this nice little model, red brown for the leather, you know, and it's I want to replicate it and I can't.
So that was kind of like an experiment for you with just not using washes. That was
exactly. I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and try to paint like the heavy metal pros paint, you know. And
So you like the effect, you just don't like the investment?
Oh, I like the effect. The investment is just insane. And honestly, I mean, this guy is a perfect example of when you can use it and it's not as annoying because he's he's got ridiculously over sculpted muscles to highlight.
The fur's very well
fur's very well. Yeah, exactly. Although I do need to probably steal some of that fluorescent yellow and paint his eyes because I've Never been happy with his eyes.
Hey, so that's a few models we painted. So if you guys have anything cool, game mods or tips and tricks, whatever, please feel free to share it with us. If you're local, come on the show. If you're not local, spend that money. Come on the show, or just send us a message.
It's like a very rickety.
Yeah, it's just
TV tray.